stuck and you feel like there's no way out. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. This builds something in ourselves. So one of which is these matters. Dealing with people is not supposed to be something that causes us to be mentally disabled. يعني this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created وَجَعَلْنَا بَعْضَكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ فِتْنَةً أَتَصْبِرُونَ. The Quran says we made you fitna to one another, trial for one another. أَتَصْبِرُونَ, should you then be patient? So be patient and overlook, and don't make your heart like a sponge, takes everything. Over words, let it go. Overlook, seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, especially if it's parents or siblings, to make sure that this is something that is strong as far as the relationship is concerned. What else here? What is the correct and halal way of approaching someone for marriage? If it's from a man's perspective, is to ask around, of course, and if there's someone that is in particular that he wants to seek marriage to, then he goes to the wali of the woman and he asks him, and the process goes from there. If it's the other way around, also the wali of the woman is the one that would look for her, or so the wali is the one to be approached. And if in cases where there's no wali, things has to be done without committing sins. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And to focus, sometimes it does not just the wali, the women of the maharim, they would go and check how, for example, a person wants to marry, so his mother, he sends his mother to see, like Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when he wanted to get married, he sent the women of his family to look for the one that he wants to marry. And the woman went and she said she's good and she agrees, but she has a sister that is awra. What's awra? Has a bad eye. Her sister. As if she's like, this is maybe a questionable thing. He says, I want to marry her sister. So he ended up marrying her sister. And after 7 years, she asked him, did you see anything? Did you see anything bad from me? He says, no, except that your shoes makes noise when you walk. That's the only thing that he saw bad from her. So, to send someone to know her, sometimes women have their own way of judging things. This can work, inshallah. When a wife works full time, is it Islamically fair for her to be solely responsible for cooking, cleaning, and childcare? What balance does Islam encourage? When you're stuck with the question, that you cannot challenge the question itself. First of all, the wife works full time. For a wife to work, no one would ever say that this is haram. But what is the meaning of working? And what's the main responsibility here? The norm is that the wife is at home and the husband is the one that is working full time. That's the norm. If there's an exception, that means there is exceptional circumstances. And if there's exceptional circumstances, that means it has to be dealt accordingly and without indulging into haram, in sins and things like this. So if you're talking about exceptional situations, then maybe people can help one another, find someone to cook, but this is like an abnormal case. But this is not the norm among Muslims. But it becomes the norm in some societies, in some cultures, that the woman would work full time and the man works full time, meaning outside of the house, because inside of the house there's full-time work. So who's going to take care of the full-time work? The full-time work in the home is not cooking and cleaning. You can get a servant to do that for you if you're, mashallah, working full-time. It's not about this. And they used to have khadam, they used to have servants. They even mentioned the servants as part of, if someone has a servant, he can still receive zakah, because servant is such a necessity sometimes in someone's life. So all of these things can be done, but what's more important than all of that, if there's children, where the mother figure in their life versus the father's figure. This is such an important thing. And the same thing for the man, he needs to have the second at home. He needs to have the tranquility at home. This is something that is part of the respect, that he goes home and he has his wife waiting for him. and he's kind to her and she's kind to him. These goals of life that needs to be adjusted according to the book of Allah and for the goodness of the hereafter, not because of the benefit of the husband or the benefits of the wife, but because of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us for the bigger objectives of things that we learn from the deen of Allah. How can I teach young children at home to learn the Quran? Now, طيب. Does it get does playing Surah Al-Baqarah? طيب, we said that when we were talking about how shaitan flees. Is it every day? No, not every 3 days. If a person wants to make sure that the shaitan is away from the house. And the second hadith is the ending of the statement of A'mash, or is it? Naam, it says no. He says وَأَرَاهُ قَالْ فَيَلْتَزِمُ. That means this is part of the hadith, that he would embrace him. It's part of the. He says that he would think that this is. He thinks that this is part of the hadith. طيب. How would one be able to get married if their family have refused each person who has interested, even though they don't agree and don't want to actively search? This is an issue. Does it reach the state of al-adl or not? Al-adl is when the waliya of the woman, he refuses for her to get married. Every time someone comes, he refuses, he refuses. So this is something to be looked into. What's the reason why he's refusing? If he's refusing because of the religious characteristics of the intended husband, that means this is a bad sign. He doesn't want her to marry a religious person. Then his wilaya is to be moved to someone else. So this case has to be examined. Or maybe there's no one that fits. People, those who are interested, are not good people, things of that nature. And you need to actively search. But the wilaya of it, of that guardian, can be changed if this is what causing harm to his daughter, for example. And that's by asking the people of knowledge or the imam of the masjid or something like this. طيب, how should a wali and a male family member approach court for daughters or sisters when my wali is uncomfortable discussing marriage? Is it court? No, I don't think it's court. How should a wali and a male family member approach for daughters or sisters when my wali is uncomfortable discussing marriage? Sometimes when things are like this, to ask help from other individuals and to get someone to be involved in it. I'm not sure exactly I cannot picture exactly what the question is. Allah make it easy. When you were talking about how shaitan flees from the house of reciting Surah Al-Baqarah is read, does that mean every day? The questions keeps on being moving, right? How would one be able to get married if their family have refused each person? You get that? Is it acceptable in our religion to directly reach out to someone for marriage to see if they're interested before involving a wali? There is nusus like this, but with extreme cautious of making sure that there's no fitna is to be involved in this. So if things are protected and there's no fitna and the message reaches for the person to go and come forward and ask the wali, this is permissible as long as there's no fitna, as long as there's no haram or potential haram that can happen. How to deal with in-laws that don't like you? May Allah make it easy. Sometimes it's not true, and sometimes it's just maybe there is something wrong with the ones that their in-laws are not liking them. So to work on ourselves, to be nice to them. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم وما يلقى الذين صبروا وما يلقى إلا ذو حظ عظيم. Initiate, push with what is good, because ادفع بالتي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك, all of a sudden when you do what is good to those who are having enmity towards you, that they become waliyun hamim, becomes very intimate, very close to you. And this is something that is in the nature of the human beings. But requires lots of patience. So if this is the case, how are you treating them? The more they treat you bad, the more that you treat them with kindness and goodness for the sake of Allah. And do not again make it as a rewardable relationship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will change the situation, inshaAllah ta'ala. Is it acceptable in our religion to directly reach out? طيب. Can you choose to not be married as a woman. As far as the permissibility, it's permissible, but a person would miss so much of the great deeds and the good deeds, and it's against the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Unless there is some specific circumstance or excuses there. And at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when you look into the hadith, they would not allow in the society that a woman is not being married, even if she's a widow or divorced or whatever, unless she is so faithful to her husband that died, that should be, they leave that alone if she is choosing this. But once they're divorced and the iddah is finished, they would make sure that she is married, so that there's not too many of the non-married women in the society. And the same thing for men. وَأَنْكِحُوا الْأَيَامَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّالِحِينَ مِنْ عِبَادِكُمْ وَإِمَائِكُمْ. Plus the good deeds that comes as a result of marriage is far more than being alone. And again, it's not about what you feel. You might say, for example, you want to make ibadah. The ulama discuss this. Is nawafil ibadat, doing optional acts of worship, is better for the person or to get married? And getting married is definitely more rewardable. Why? Because the benefit is extended to others, and taking care of other things in one's life, and one of which is husband, children, and things of that nature. So if you're able to be patient and seek rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and get married, this is much better than not being married. What is an acceptable mahr? The mahr is different from one society to the other, one culture to the other, as long as it's not extreme, and as long also as it's not to be belittled so much. And mahrul mithl is important. So the like of the woman in her household and her relatives, without putting so much burden upon the men, but at the same time he should feel that it's a little bit more of not a burden, but something that he would have to work for. This is the rights of the wife. Musa alayhi salam, the mahr of his wife was 8 years of labor. You can imagine, and he worked for 8 years. And he said, فَإِنْ أَتْمَمْتَ عَشْرًا فَمِنْ عِنْدِكَ. If you make it 10, this is out of your goodness, and he made it 10 as a mahr for his wife. But again, it doesn't mean that it's a call to make it difficult and then people end up not being married, but it's to be at ease with it. Also, as the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that from the barakah of the woman is that the mahr is easy also for her. قراءة سورة البقرة لترضي الشيطان يكون بصوت عال أم لا، مشكلة إذا كان بصوت منخفض بيني وبين نفسي. القراءة حتى تكون قراءة لابد فيها من صوت. The recitation, to be recitation, has to come with sound, and the sound, you can only be the one that hears it, not anyone next to you. But it has to have, even if it's a small voice. And one of the things that from the sunnah that has been neglected in the homes is reciting Quran with voice. One of the things to be done at night, that's from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, recite Quran with voice. Not too loud that you would wake up your neighbors or wake up those who are asleep at home, but recite with voice the Quran, especially at night. In the طيب هناك من المسلمين الجدد طيب there is still more طيب خلاص طيب we'll continue إن شاء الله تعالى with the questions إن شاء الله تعالى tomorrow. بارك الله فيكم. بارك الله فيكم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم ربنا بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير.